I never thought a single cab ride could unravel my entire life. My name is Madison, and just yesterday, I was trudging through another soul-crushing day in the heart of Chicago, dreaming of nothing more than collapsing next to my husband Ethan on our worn-out couch. But as the city lights blurred past me in that creaky, pine-scented taxi, a stranger's voice cut through the noise of my exhaustion with an offer that stopped my heart cold. It was a moment that dragged me into a shadowy corner of myself I didn't even know existed, a choice that now haunts every step I take. What did I agree to in that dimly lit cab? And how will I ever face Ethan with this secret burning inside me? Picture this. I'm standing on a cracked sidewalk in the heart of Chicago, the wind slicing through my coat like 1,000 tiny needles, and I'm just another speck in this endless urban sprawl. My name's Madison, 29 years old, and I've been grinding away as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized firm downtown. My days are a blur of spreadsheets, client calls, and coffee runs that never seem to end, even when the clock ticks past 6. Yesterday was no different, another grueling stretch of hours that left my shoulders knotted and my brain fried. I'm married to Ethan, 32, a software engineer who's often hunched over his laptop in our cozy apartment, working from home. He's the kind of man you can count on, steady, kind, with a quiet strength that's been my anchor for the 4 years we've been together. Our life is comfortable, predictable even, like a well-worn pair of shoes that fit just right, but don't spark much excitement anymore. I've got Lila, though, my best friend and lifeline at 30, who works in the same building as me. She's the one I turn to when the office drama gets too thick, or when I just need to rant about a botched campaign pitch over a quick lunch. She gets it, gets me, in a way that cuts through the noise of this city. So, there I was yesterday evening, utterly spent after another marathon day, deciding I couldn't face the sardine-packed bus ride home. The thought of elbowing through a crowd on public transit made my skin crawl, so I opted for a taxi instead, a small indulgence to save what little energy I had left. The autumn air bit at my cheeks as I stood on the curb, the city lights streaking past in a dizzying haze of yellows and reds. Skyscrapers loomed overhead, their windows glowing like judgmental eyes, while the distant hum of traffic and the occasional shout from a street vendor filled the space around me. I just wanted to get home, to collapse onto the couch next to Ethan, maybe steal a few bites of whatever takeout he'd ordered while I zoned out to some mindless show. After what felt like forever, a yellow cab finally rolled up, its tires crunching against the grit of the street. I slid into the back seat with a sigh of relief, the worn leather creaking under me, and caught a glimpse of the driver in the rearview mirror. His name was Victor, or so the ID card clipped to the dashboard said. He looked to be in his mid-50s, with a face weathered by time, deep lines etched around his eyes and mouth, like he'd seen more than his share of long nights. His voice carried a slight accent, one I couldn't pin down, maybe Eastern European or something else entirely, but it had a warm, gravelly edge to it. He flashed a quick smile as he asked where I was headed, and there was something disarming about his friendliness, a stark contrast to the usual gruff silence I expect from most cab drivers in this city. I mumbled my address, a quiet street on the north side, and settled back into the seat, letting the day's tension start to unravel. The interior of the cab was a little world of its own, a bubble against the chaos outside. There was a faint smell of pine air freshener, the kind that hangs from the rearview mirror in a little green tree shape, swaying gently with every turn. It mingled with something earthier, maybe the lingering scent of countless passengers who'd sat here before me. The leather seats were worn, cracked in places where hands and bodies had pressed against them over the years, but they were soft in a comforting, lived-in way. In the background, an old radio hummed faintly, tuned to some classic rock station, guitars wailing and drums thumping through the static, a song I vaguely recognized from my dad's old playlists. It was oddly soothing, like a memory I couldn't quite place. Victor started chatting almost right away, his voice cutting through the low music with a casual ease. He asked how my day had been, his tone light and friendly, like we were old acquaintances catching up. I wasn't really in the mood for conversation, though. I gave him a polite but short, "It was fine," Just long. My eyes drifting down to my phone as I scrolled through notifications. I tapped out a quick text to Ethan, letting him know I was on my way home, my thumbs moving fast over the screen. Victor didn't seem fazed by my brevity. He just nodded, glancing at me through the mirror with a small smile, and commented on the traffic ahead. How it was always a mess this time of day, how he'd seen worse, but it still got under his skin. I murmured a vague agreement, half listening, my mind already wandering to the comfort of our apartment. But there was something about his warmth, a kind of paternal gentleness in the way he spoke, that started to chip away at my guard. He began sharing little stories from his years behind the wheel, his gravelly voice weaving tales of the city's underbelly. He talked about odd passengers he'd picked up over the decades, people who'd spilled their life stories or argued with invisible foes in the back seat. One story in particular got me, a late-night fare with a guy who'd accidentally left a pet snake in the cab. Victor described how he'd nearly jumped out of his skin when he saw the thing slithering across the floor mat at 3 a.m. I couldn't help but chuckle at that, picturing this tough-looking man spooked by a reptile. My shoulders loosened a bit, and I found myself glancing up from my phone, actually engaging as he painted these vivid snippets of his life. Outside, the cityscape rolled by in a blur of motion and light. Neon signs flickered above storefronts, casting pink and blue glows onto the sidewalks. Pedestrians hurried along, bundled in scarves and heavy coats, their breaths puffing out in little clouds against the... As the cab rolled through the Chicago streets, the glow of the city lights dimming into a softer haze, I felt the conversation with Victor shift in a way I couldn't quite grasp at first. His tone was still warm, that gravelly edge smoothing out his words, but there was a new weight to them, a subtle probing that made the air in the back seat feel heavier. He started asking more personal questions, nothing too direct at first, just little nudges about my life. Did I live alone? Was I from around here? I answered in short bursts, keeping things vague, mentioning I had someone waiting for me at home. Then, more pointedly, he asked if I was married. I hesitated for a split second, my thumb brushing over the simple band on my finger, before nodding. Yeah, I am, I said, my voice quieter than I intended, almost like I was testing the waters myself. Victor nodded thoughtfully, his eyes catching mine in the rearview mirror for a moment longer than before. There was a pause, a beat of silence that stretched just a little too long, and then he spoke again, his voice calm, almost businesslike, as if he were discussing the weather or the fare. I'll give you $400, he said plain as day, if you spend the evening with me. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My stomach dropped, a cold wave rushing through me, and my palms turned clammy, sticking to the leather seat beneath me. I froze, my breath catching in my throat, unsure if I'd even heard him right. Spend the evening? The implication hung there, heavy and unspoken, but crystal clear in the way his tone didn't waver, in the way he didn't rush to clarify or laugh it off as some kind of misunderstanding. I flicked my eyes up to the rearview mirror, searching his face for any sign of jest or malice, but his expression was unreadable. His gaze was steady, almost detached, waiting for me to respond as if he'd just offered to buy me a coffee instead of... whatever this was. My mind spun, a chaotic mess of emotions crashing into each other. I was horrified, the kind of deep, visceral shock that makes your skin prickle. I was offended, too. How dare he think I'd even entertain such a notion? But beneath all that, buried under layers of disgust and disbelief, there was a tiny, inexplicable flicker of curiosity. What kind of person makes an offer like that? What does he think this evening would even entail? I hated myself for even wondering, for letting my thoughts stray there for even a second. My mind darted to Ethan, probably at home right now, sprawled on the couch with a movie paused on the screen, waiting for me to walk through the door. He'd have no idea, no clue about the bizarre turn this cab ride had taken. I pictured his face, the quiet comfort of his presence, and felt a sharp pang of guilt for even being in this moment. But then, unbidden, another thought crept in. $400. It's not a small amount, not for us. There's a bill we've been dodging, a nagging weight on our shoulders, and that money could wipe it clean, just like that. I shook the idea away almost as soon as it formed, a wave of shame washing over me. How could I even think about trading something so personal, so sacred, for a quick fix? What was wrong with me? The silence in the cab grew thicker, oppressive, like a fog I couldn't see through. Victor didn't push, didn't say another word, just kept driving with that same steady grip on the wheel, his eyes occasionally flicking back to me in the mirror. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, each beat loud in my ears, drowning out the faint hum of the radio. I needed to say something, to shut this down, to tell him to pull over and let me out right now. But my throat felt tight, my tongue heavy, like I'd forgotten how to form words. And then, against every instinct screaming in my head, against every fiber of my being that knew better, I heard myself speak. Okay. I'm still in the back seat of Victor's cab, my own voice echoing in my head, that single word. Okay, hanging like a weight I can't shake off. My heart's racing so fast I can barely breathe, and as the city outside the window starts to change, I feel like I'm sinking deeper into a choice I don't fully understand. The bright, buzzing lights of downtown Chicago are fading now, replaced by narrower streets, darker corners, and buildings that look like they've been forgotten by time. The neon signs are gone, swapped for flickering street lamps that cast long, jagged shadows across the pavement. The hum of traffic has dulled to an occasional distant rumble, and the sidewalks are emptier, just a stray figure here and there, hunched against the cold. We're moving into a part of the city I don't recognize, a place far from the familiar routes that lead to my quiet north side street. My stomach twists tighter with every turn, a gnawing sense of wrongness creeping up my spine. I clutch my phone in my lap, the screen dark but glowing faintly with the time, 8:15 p.m. Ethan's probably starting to wonder where I am. I'm usually home by now, or at least I'd have texted him an update if I got held up at the office. My thumb hovers over the screen, trembling, itching to type out something, anything. Maybe I could lie, say I'm stuck at work, caught in a last-minute meeting. But my fingers won't move. They're shaking too much, and my mind is a storm of panic. What if I text him and he calls? What if he hears the fear in my voice? Worse, what if Victor sees me reaching out for help? I glance at the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of his profile. His face is unreadable, focused on the road, but there's a tension in the way he grips the steering wheel, his knuckles pale under the dim light. A silver ring on his left hand catches a glint from a passing street lamp, a small, cold flash that somehow makes him seem more real, more dangerous. My thoughts are spiraling now, crashing into each other like waves in a storm. What if Victor isn't who he seems? I mean, I don't even know him, not really. All I've got is a name on a dashboard ID and a handful of stories that could be lies for all I know. What if this is some kind of trap? What if that offer, spending the evening with him, was just a way to lure me somewhere I can't get out of? My chest tightens at the thought, a cold sweat prickling at the back of my neck. I try to push the fear down, to rationalize it away, but it's like a living thing, clawing at the edges of my mind. I need to do something, say something, to break this suffocating tension. So, I force my voice out, though it comes out smaller than I mean it to. "Where are we going?" I ask, my eyes darting to the window, trying to spot a street sign, a landmark, anything to anchor me. Victor doesn't turn his head, just keeps his gaze forward, his voice calm but empty of warmth now. "Somewhere nice," he says, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. But it's not a comforting smile. It doesn't reach his eyes, doesn't soften the hard lines of his face. It's the kind of smile that makes my skin crawl, like there's something hidden behind it, something I'm not supposed to see. I swallow hard, nodding as if that answer means anything, but inside, I'm screaming. Somewhere nice? What does that even mean? My mind races with possibilities, each one darker than the last. I want to press him, to demand a real answer, but the words stick in my throat, choked by the growing dread in my chest. The cab falls silent again. an eerie, heavy quiet that presses down on me. The radio, which had been a faint comfort earlier with its static-laced classic rock, is off now. I don't know when he turned it off, but the absence of sound is deafening, like the world has been muted except for the sound of my own uneven breathing. The cab finally slows to a stop in front of a run-down building, its faded sign barely legible under the dim streetlight. I squint through the window and make out the words, "Some cheap motel, the kind of place you'd drive past without a second glance." My heart is a drum in my chest, pounding so hard I'm sure Victor can hear it. He cuts the engine, and the sudden stillness feels suffocating. Without a word, he steps out, the door slamming shut with a hollow thud that makes me flinch. I sit there for a moment, frozen, my hands gripping my purse like it's a lifeline. Then he's at my door, opening it with a creak, his silhouette looming against the faint glow of the motel's flickering fluorescent lights. "Come on," he says, his voice low, almost gentle, but it carries an edge that sends a shiver down my spine. I step out, my legs shaky, the cold air biting at my skin as I follow him toward the entrance. The hallway inside reeks of musty carpet and stale cigarette smoke, a smell that clings to the back of my throat. The fluorescent lights overhead buzz and flicker, casting harsh, uneven shadows on the peeling wallpaper. My sneakers scuff against the worn floor as I trail behind Victor, each step feeling heavier than the last. My mind is screaming at me to turn back, to run, but my body keeps moving, like I'm caught in some terrible dream I can't wake up from. He stops at a door near the end of the hall, number 17, the paint on the numbers chipped and faded. He pulls a key from his pocket, the metal jangling softly, and unlocks it with a slow, deliberate turn. The door creaks open, revealing a sliver of darkness beyond. He steps aside, gesturing for me to go in first, his eyes meeting mine for a brief, unreadable moment. I hesitate, my breath hitching, but then I force myself forward, crossing the threshold into the unknown. The room is small, suffocatingly so, with a sagging bed pushed against one wall, its sheets faded and thin, stained with time. A cracked mirror hangs crookedly above a chipped dresser, reflecting a distorted version of my pale, wide-eyed face. There's a single chair by a small window, the curtains drawn tight, letting in only a sliver of sickly yellow light from the street outside. The air in here is heavy, thick with the scent of dust, and something sour I can't place. I stand in the center of the room, my arms wrapped around myself, feeling like the walls are closing in. Victor shuts the door behind us, the click of the lock echoing in the silence, and I flinch again, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. He reaches into his jacket, and for a split second, my mind jumps to the worst, my breath catching in terror. But then he pulls out a small stack of bills, crisp and green, and holds them out to me. "400, as promised," he says, his voice flat, businesslike, as if this is just another transaction. I stare at the money, my hands trembling as I reach for it. The bills feel wrong in my fingers, like they're tainted, dirty in a way that goes beyond the physical. I shove them into my purse quickly, the weight of them burning against my side, a constant reminder of what I've agreed to. My heart is hammering so hard now I can barely think, each beat a reminder of the line I'm about to cross. I glance at the bed, then back at Victor, who's standing by the door. His expression still unreadable, almost detached. It's that detachment that unnerves me most. Like he's done this before, like this is routine for him. My stomach churns, a wave of nausea rising, but I swallow it down, forcing myself to stay upright, to not crumble under the weight of what's happening. And then it begins, the moment I've been dreading since I uttered that cursed word in the cab. I can't bring myself to look at him as it unfolds, my mind retreating. I'm sitting in the passenger seat of Victor's cab again, the weight of the night pressing down on me like a physical force. My purse is clutched tight in my lap, the money inside feeling like it's searing through the fabric, branding me with every second that passes. We're driving away from that rundown motel, the flickering sign shrinking in the side mirror until it's just a blur of faded light. The city streets are quiet now, the kind of late-night hush that feels unnatural in a place like Chicago. Victor doesn't say a word, and neither do I. The silence between us is a heavy, suffocating thing, thicker than the stale air in this cab. His hands are steady on the wheel, his face a mask of indifference, as if what just happened, what I let happen, was nothing more than a routine stop on his route. I keep my eyes fixed on the window, watching the world slide by, but I'm not really seeing it. My mind is elsewhere, trapped in that cramped, musty room, replaying every moment I wish I could erase. The city lights look different now, harsher somehow, like they're cutting through the darkness just to glare at me. Every neon flicker, every street lamp's cold glow feels like a judgment, illuminating the shame I can't shake. I thought I knew who I was before tonight, but now I'm not so sure. The buildings loom taller, their shadows deeper, and I feel smaller than I ever have, shrinking under the weight of my own choices. My fingers tighten around the strap of my purse, the edges digging into my palm, but I barely notice the pain. It's nothing compared to the ache inside me, the gnawing guilt that's already started to hollow me out. I want to scream, to cry, to do something to release this pressure building in my chest, but I'm numb. Numb to everything except the burning weight of those bills tucked away, a silent accusation I can't escape. Victor doesn't look at me, not once, as we wind through the streets, getting closer to my neighborhood. I don't know if I'm grateful for that, or if it makes me feel worse, like I'm invisible now that the transaction is done. The cab slows as we approach a familiar corner, a block away from my house. It's just past 11 p.m., the dashboard clock glowing a sickly green in the dim light. He pulls over without a word, the engine idling as he waits for me to get out. I fumble with the door handle, my hands still shaky, and mutter a quiet, "Goodbye," my voice barely above a whisper. I can't bring myself to meet his eyes, not after everything. I don't want to see whatever might be there, indifference, pity, or something darker. The door creaks as I push it open, the cold night air hitting me like a slap, and I step onto the sidewalk, my legs unsteady beneath me. I don't look back as the cab pulls away, the sound of its tires fading into the distance. I'm alone now, standing under the weak glow of a street lamp, the shadows stretching long and thin around me. Each step toward home feels heavier than the last, like I'm dragging chains behind me. My mind is racing, spinning with excuses, lies I'll need to tell to explain why I'm so late. I rehearse them in my head, testing the words silently on my tongue. Work ran over. A last-minute project. Traffic was a nightmare. They sound hollow even to me, flimsy shields against the truth I'm hiding. My breath comes in short, shallow bursts, fogging in the chilly air, and I wrap my coat tighter around myself, as if it could protect me from the mess I've made. When I finally reach our building, my hand trembles as I fit the key into the lock. The door swings open with a soft creak, and there's Ethan, half asleep on the couch, the TV flickering with some late-night show he's not really watching. A pizza box sits open on the coffee table, a couple of slices left, the greasy cardboard a stark reminder of the normalcy I've shattered tonight. He stirs as I don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.